So I'm Simon Dowson, I'm Managing Director of Delta Cosworth. So in 2005, Delta Motorsport was formed. But during the years we got involved in sports cars, and in particular at Le Mans. That started back in 2007 when we were doing some support work with Zytek around their car, which had come from Reynard, which is where I'd previously worked. And we actually won the LMP2 class back in 2007. As we went through, we got involved in different race series, one of them being a championship called the Super League Formula, where we were working as an engineering partner with Alan Docking. And following on from that, in 2012, we decided that we would do a joint venture, and we started a race team called Delta ADR. And we were going to compete in the World Endurance Championship, third or fourth race into the year. We were a lot more established, seeing some fairly decent results. And so much so that in Le Mans in 2012, John actually put it on pole for the LMP2 class. I don't really get excited about stuff like that, really. I mean, it's good to do, particularly because you could see that Olivier Pla, who's obviously French and a bit of a hot shot, and a really nice guy, but he wanted the pole, and he was racing with Oak Racing, one of our competitors, and they couldn't beat John, so that was nice to do. But for Le Mans, you know it's all about the race, really. So you don't really want to take too much out of the car in qualifying, and you don't want to compromise the setup just for qualifying when you've got to get through the race. So although we've done Le Mans before with Zytek, doing it as your own team, it's a pretty brutal event, really, for not just the car, but for the people involved. So the whole team, the build up to it, how you've got to go through the whole week and night practices. So by the time you actually get to race day, you've pretty much done a 24-hour shift before you even start the race. So it's more like a Le Mans 48 hours for the actual team. Plus the race is held in a lot of the evening, so it gets dark quite early, and then it's dark for a long period of time, and there's no natural light around or false light around to help get you through that. So it is, in comparison to some of the other 24 hours I've done of Daytona, it's pretty brutal. So we had a reasonable run during the race. We led at the start for the first couple of stints, and then again periods during the race. But we had one of the backlit panels that shows the car's number. One of those failed during the race, and they make you come in and make that work, and that was enough to set us back in the race. We ended up finishing 5th, I think it was, in class, so a little bit disappointing, but it was a good experience. So we had a premium sponsor in 2013 from G Drive. So we had two cars then. We were running two cars. One car, particularly strong driver lineup, John driving again, Roman Russinoff as the silver amateur driver, and Mike Conway. So really strong. We'd won the races leading up to Le Mans. We were tipped to win the race at Le Mans as well. We qualified second, so Ollie Pla was on pole, we were second. And the race was going well. And again, we had a failure of a part, a bit of bodywork started delaminating. So we had to change that during the race, and that was enough to set us back in the field, because it's so hotly contested back then in the early days of the World Endurance Championship. A lot of competitors, and they're all on the game. So that set us back in the race, and we ended up finishing 3rd, which was, felt a disappointment. There was no excitement about finishing 3rd and getting on the podium, because it kind of felt like we should have won. As part of the scrutineering, post-race scrutineering, we were asked to do a fuel capacity test, which is always a bit of a concern, and this year in particular, because we'd had a fuel tank leak in the build-up in the race week. We have to do regular capacity checks normally to ensure that getting the most from the tank, but not more than you're supposed to. And we'd done one of those capacity tests, and then when we were doing the second one, then we were seen by the scrutineers, and we were told that we weren't allowed to do it because we had open fuel vessels, and that's not allowed within the rules. So we had to stop it. So we had to go based on the data that we had. And then when we were doing the post-race pump out, which was the day after the event, we actually ended up getting 330 centilitres extra out of the tank. So as much as a Coke can out of the tank, which clearly we didn't know about, but that's enough to get you kicked out. We went back and protested the exclusion with hard evidence from ATL, the fuel cell supplier, that the fuel cell expands during its early life. So we weren't to know that while we measured an under capacity, that we would be over capacity come the end of a race. And at the end of the day, that amount of fuel wasn't enough to make a difference, but the FIA weren't interested in that. So it was a bit sour, and in particular the fact that we won every other race that season, and losing the points for Le Mans meant that we didn't win the championship. Ended up finishing third in the championship, whereas we would have easily won even with the third place. So the event's never been that kind to us in the past, but there's a bit of unfinished business. So it'd be interesting to see what the next century of Le Mans looks like with Cosworth.